Hello, folks. Welcome to Story Hour here with Lady Vinyl Gaming. Tallulah, thank you for joining me. I see you there. I hope you're having a good evening. For those of you who are new to this, Tuesday Night Story Hour is a text-based game that is essentially really close to a choose-your-own-adventure book. So that's why I think of it as Story Hour. Um, I try and do different voices for each of the characters. They will not be the same episode after episode. I don't have the best memory, and I do too many other things because these are live now, so it's not like I'm recording 3 or 4 episodes at once. But it's it's a more or an attempt at least at a more relaxing ride along with the game. So you know, grab some food, something warm to drink, something cool to drink. Tuck yourself up into bed if it's evening, because I know for my fans over there in the UK, it's probably pretty late. And enjoy a story. Last time we were playing was actually the second time we had done Shadows of New York. The very first time, I made a very wrong decision and ended up final deathing right in the very first time I basically made a choice. Um, well, a real choice. Um, the second time, which was our last time, we actually made it through and went from being a journalist at a kind of fading to the side magazine to becoming a vampire. And that was where we basically cut off. So let's see what's going to happen from there. Once again, I find myself in Big Beat Burger. Familiar surroundings, faces I recognize, mood, same as it ever was. Still, I process it in an entirely different way. It all frustrates me now, or, more precisely, makes me frustrated with myself. It's like I'm clinging to the remnants of a cocoon I've outgrown. Ugh. It's the same with these cigarettes. I don't need them anymore, so why do I keep holding on to them? Fucking hell, it's like I refuse to accept that I'm something better than I used to be. A vampire. Just 2 nights ago, I met Karen. She embraced me, by which I mean turned me into a kindred. She calls herself my sire, and me, her child. Last night, she taught me the basics of survival. Drinking blood, manipulating humans, bending steel, controlling shadows. Tonight, I expected more lessons. Instead, she told me to go out and enjoy myself. What's the catch? I asked, to which she responded, I might kill you if you prove to be a disappointment. There are a few rules. I have to uphold the masquerade. I can't contact anyone I knew as a human. I can't let anyone realize I'm not human anymore. I can't embrace anyone. And so on. Otherwise, I'm free to do whatever I want. But for some reason, the first thing I did was come back here. Old habits die hard. Karen is probably watching me from somewhere even now. The way I understand it, tomorrow night she's supposed to introduce me to the Camarilla, a local society of vampires. Turns out, they are the ones who have been systematically ruining my life lately. All a part of some secret evaluation that I barely passed. Just imagining the reach they have makes me dizzy. After they destroyed the old me that I barely cared about, Karen rebuilt me anew. On one hand, her test left some scars that will take time to heal. On the other hand, maybe I should just be grateful? I'm snapped out of my thoughts by a sudden scream. Some douchebag yelling about his fries not being salty enough. I think this is my cue to leave. Permanently. Yes, Fred, that's definitely Anarch, which is totally my bag. But not the characters I'm playing. Goodbye, BBB. Hope I never see you again. I'm destined for greater things, you see. Okay. So, we can go down the route of retributive justice. A meathead bully and his unfortunate victim. I probably shouldn't interfere, but what better chance could I find to test what I've become? Dance macabre. Time to swing a little more on the devil's dance floor. The club beckons. The risks of swiping right. This Tinder addict smells like A, a bit of a loser, B, a wannabe intellectual, C, a perfect source of nourishment. Well, considering I'm not allowed to embrace, I could feed on him, but I'm not sure if the character is allowed to do that. The dance club doesn't sound like fun, and I feel like putting somebody in their place. Two men are facing each other in a dark back alley. One of them stands with his back against the wall, his chest heaving as he's struggling to catch his breath. People, anybody out there? I'm being robbed. A brawny, rugged guy is yelling at metal staircases with a theatrical incredulity in his voice. With a lively step, he dances around an older man who's having trouble finding his footing. What is this bullshit? Oh, so now you can talk? Good, because I'm dying to hear what you did with my wallet, Holmes. Wallet? I have no idea what you're talking about. The goon starts prancing around like a Muay Thai boxer. He's smiling, but his eyes send a clear message. You're cornered, buddy. Don't ever try to pull a fast one on me. Come on, homeboy. You may be able to trick an average Joe on the street with your act, but a fighter recognizes a fighter. It's like an animal thing. It's an instinct thing. You've got some moves on you. You're like shit. You're like a black mamba. Lightning fast reflexes. He starts shadowboxing for a moment. The man's definitely got enough energy to spare. However, I'm like a king cobra. You've met your match. Two apex predators now locked in battle. Oh, so you're seeing snakes. That would explain some... Before he's able to finish, a sucker punch knocks the air right out of his lungs. The old man slides down the wall. Before he can let out a groan, he's interrupted by a brutal kick to the chest. That's what I'm talking about. A fighting spirit, even when you're cornered. Take a seat. Deep breath. Collect your thoughts before you speak up again. Remember where you put my wallet now? I'm pretty sure you broke my rib. An eye for an eye, a rib for a ribbon. Biblical punishment. It's only fair, homie. Fair. At least admit that this is a mugging. Wallet my ass. Still in denial? Okay. Let's say I have about $5,000 in there. Give me $6,000 and I'll let you walk away. Relatively unharmed. So you admit it. Admit what? That this is not about proper compensation. This is a robbery. Look, buddy, this is beginning to bore me. Unless you want me to go all Anderson Silva on your ass, give me what I want. Anderson Silva? Yeah, Anderson Silva, a flying knee meeting your solar plexus. The man, the myth, the legend. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Thai boxing, Western boxing, Taekwondo, Wing Chun, and Capoeira? I don't even know what that is in real life. Capoeira combined into a single fighting style that can only be described as straight-up murder. I've been studying the glorious singularity that is Anderson Silva for years. Every move I have, I owe to him. So if you don't want this snake to turn into a deadly spider, show me the money, honey. Summer 2013, Las Vegas. Huh?
Watched it live on pay-per-view. Weidman saw through all of Silva's tricks, whipped his ass, broke his spirit, showed him for a fraud he is. The man hasn't been the same ever since. All the emptying showboating, hollow taunting, drunk on his own Kool-Aid. Jesus, you idolize him, you asshole.
For a good minute, the goon silently looks down at the whimpering man at his feet, chewing on his lower lip. When he finally speaks up, his voice betrays an intent to kill.
You know what, homeboy? Screw the money. This is a matter of honor now.
My thought exactly.
Huh?
He raises his fist.
We've got ourselves a mixed martial art expert here, huh? For your own sake, I hope you can back that talk with some self-defense skills, homie.
Boosting your self-esteem by beating up an injured old geezer? God damn, you're pathetic. He jumps at the sound of my voice, turns my way in the blink of an eye, and immediately assumes a combat stance. His reflexes are sharp. Looks like he has at least this much to back up all his bravado. Wannabe Anderson Silva's face betrays utter confusion upon seeing me. He's got no idea how I managed to sneak up on him. I don't blame him. I wouldn't be able to explain it myself. It felt like I became one with the darkness, my pure consciousness traversing a dusky dreamscape, jumping from one shadow to another as if they were different trains of thought. I think of some experiences I've had with psychedelics, every blink an adventure. I was outside of this alley. Blink, I was above the alley. Blink, now I'm in front of this guy. And he pisses me off. The older man slumps up. Looks like he was trying his best to keep it together and gave up once the cavalry arrived. The goon regains his composure and barks at me in an overly gruff way.
The hell you sneaking around here for, Chica? Move along, this is between men.
Not anymore. His fist turns towards me.
I'm serious, and an equal opportunity ass kicker.
I respond to the threat with the brightest, most innocent, virginal smile I can put on. So you're into shadow boxing, huh? Something comes over me. I can feel the darkness embracing me, whispering sweet nothings in my ear, pumping me for what's to come. I've always wanted to try this. I zoom in, duck below his fist, and sweep him off his feet with a powerful roundhouse kick. It's probably the dumbest, flashiest thing I could have done, but I'm feeling more confident than ever. He flies into the air, only managing not to fall because of the wall behind him. I know what he's thinking. I should have blocked it. And he absolutely should have. But instead, he just flailed his arms helplessly, as if he suddenly found himself in front of an oncoming train, a primal expression of fear that suddenly and completely took him over. I don't know how I look right now, but judging by his expression, my best guess is like the gaping maw of some primordial beast. I follow up the surprise attack with another punch to the solar plexus, or at least my nearest estimate. Once again, the effect terrifies even myself. Looks like my hunch was correct, and I hit the right spot. He falls to the floor, whining like a wounded animal, tears streaming down his face. I let him collect himself a bit, and then grab him by his chin. Learn to choose your battles, homeboy.
Let me go. For Christ's sake, just let me go.
I kick him in the direction of the alley entrance. He staggers off, quickly disappearing from my sight. I check on his victim. Looks like he's conscious.
Wow, you whooped his ass, girl.
But he hasn't noticed anything out of order. Good. I was getting worried I might have overdone it a bit. That woman did say that keeping a low profile will be crucial if I want to survive. You alright? Need help? He manages to stand up. His smile is strained, but it suggests he's fine, or at least trying his best to seem fine.
No, you gave me all the help I needed, and then some. Thank you, miss. What's your name?
Jessica.
Thanks, Jessica. I was worried for a second, but this asshole's bark was worse than his bite. He's probably in worse shape than me now. I guess that counts as a victory. I better be going. My wife is probably worried sick, but before that, if there's anything I can do to repay you.
Forget about it. Just be a little more careful in the future, alright? A true heroine always refuses compensation for her help. At least, that's how I think things should go. Never thought I'd help someone in a street fight.
You're something else, Jessica. You never wanted to try your skills in the octagon?
Too much in love with my gorgeous face to see it bruised, battered, and swollen. Sorry.
I hear you. Whatever you do next, God bless you.
And there he goes. God, I feel like one right now. No more worrying about being out after midnight. No more feeling uneasy whenever I spot a shady asshole across the street. Ever. Hell, I could start jogging in Central Park after midnight now. Not that I needed to. The future's looking bright. There's still Danse Macabre, and there's... let's go for it. He lowers his eyes awkwardly, thinking how to proceed with his rant. So it's like, the conversation isn't really smooth. Yeah, it's like, I keep throwing shit against the wall and seeing what sticks, but nothing seems to stick for long. You understand, yeah? For sure. It's really this lack of context that's killing me about online dating. It's bad enough when a few photos and a single sentence are all you have to rely on when starting a conversation, yeah? But when a cosmic miracle finally happens and she's actually willing to keep replying to you and she's actually down to meet up eventually and you're out there sitting with her, and after 90 minutes you still don't have that shared context, just no clue whatsoever, it's just like, take me out and put a bullet in my head and put me out of my misery. I hear you. So it's just one of those dates, and it's like, we've been sitting here for ages, and the only thing she has a prolonged interest in is getting as hammered as possible, just one drink after another. And the more drunk she is, the more familiar she's getting. It's these little things, you know? Touching my upper arm after each joke, her arm around my shoulder, her jokingly punching my waist. This escalation is subtle, but steady. In addition, one recurring topic appears, and that is all the cool shit she has and wishes she could have shown me. Too bad it's all back in her apartment. That's when it hit me. She just wants to fuck, or sleep with me. Uh-huh. Yeah, well, eventually we both run out of ideas for topics that could potentially be interesting to the both of us. So just like, yeah, I'd sure love to see all that crap in your apartment. So we Uber there, and it's an admittedly pretty nice apartment, like nothing too fancy, but I can tell her dad is the kind of asshole I'd like to punch in the face if I ever met him. You know what I mean? So she guides me to the kitchen, makes me some tea, rare Indian blend. Forget what it was 5 minutes later. Then she excuses herself and goes to the bathroom and doesn't come back. 10 minutes later, I run out of tweets to read and become a little concerned. I start looking around. The first thing that catches my eye is the kitchen table. And the table is surprisingly large and is covered in neatly organized documents, like some connect the dots investigation board mafia conspiracy kind of thing. Naturally, I take interest. It takes me 20 seconds to process what it is. Her entire mental health history, sorted chronologically with all the juicy stuff neatly outlined in color. And I mean entire. It's all in there. A detailed description of her fucked up household situation over the years, anxiety, ADHD, bouts of depression, suspicions of schizophrenia, severe BPD, some weird psychosexual stuff with her brother. Okay. I keep reading and reading, and remember what I said about throwing shit against the wall and seeing what sticks? I'm dead certain that's how her shrinks went about diagnosing her. She finally comes out of the bathroom, like an hour after she went in. At this point, I've read all her shit on the table 3 times, and not just the stuff she's highlighted for my convenience. And I feel like, right now, I understand her better than, like, someone who's read Crime and Punishment understands Rascal Knock. Okay, I've never read Crime and Punishment. I'm not even going to pretend to pronounce that name. And I'm not happy about that, like, at all. You know what I mean? Uh-huh. She walks in with a cheerful, "Hi!" I respond with a slick, "All good?" She nods, does this weird finger gun thing, and chuckles. I pretend I've been doing work-related stuff on my phone the whole time. The small talk starts. A minute in, she casually picks up one of the documents on the table and she starts doing these super obvious body language cues that are like, "Oh no, how did this get here?" I'm practically dying inside, but I put on my cool face and make it look like I'm not here. Sorry, gotta reply to my boss. Yeah, he's working 24/7. Psycho motherfucker. Yeah, ha ha ha. Oh no, a finger gun's bisexual. I mean, yeah. Yeah, in this situation, yeah. She slowly collects all the documents, puts them away, and then nonchalantly asks me something about Tame Impala, like while I've been feeling crushed by all kinds of trauma I've just learned about. The apartment starts feeling like a coffin. All of a sudden, she picks up a kitchen knife and starts playing it with this zoned out stare. I'm fucking mortified. So what do you think I did? You slept with her? Of course I slept with her. That's how the worst 6 months of my life began, and I couldn't even say I didn't see it coming. God, I'm such a slut. And he leans back and groans while hiding his face behind his palms. I look at his neck. Every vein seems so visible and possibly alluring. I don't think I've ever looked at anyone's neck like that. I realize I feel insanely thirsty. Damn. Damn. I know. You sure took a turn. Years ago when this rant began, it was all about continental philosophy. What? Sorry, can you say that again? He's pretty drunk, barely able to focus on anything but his current train of thought. Just what I was hoping for. Years ago, when this... Never mind. Listen, it's stuffy in here. I want to go out. Get some fresh air. You haven't touched your drink. I mean, I would if I could. No more alcohol for me. What? No, this one's not mine. I mean, some dude bought it for me, but I don't want it. He scans the room with a death stare, looking for the guy who did it, not realizing his best chance of finding him is in a mirror. And then he drinks like half of my glass at once while looking around, as if he was hoping to prove his dominance over an unseen enemy. Okay, after you. We're walking across a mostly empty street. He's focused on keeping upright and walking in a straight line. I'm focused on finding a spot where I can drink him up. You seem like bad news. Oh yeah? So why don't you just leave me alone? Determinism, I guess. I roll my eyes, and that's when I notice it. A deep, underlit stairwell. I look around and realize there's no one around. This is my chance. I immediately yank him downstairs. It's almost pitch black, but I can still see his face. He doesn't seem shocked. It's more like awkwardness. Now listen, it's not that I, never want to do this sort of thing in public. Quite the opposite. It's just that I need a certain degree of comfort to, perform at optimal levels. Oh, shut up. I sink my fangs inside of his neck as he whimpers and becomes silent. Finally, that's what I've been waiting for the past hour. He relaxes in my arms, and I relax with him. It's like all the drinks I had to deny myself until now are hitting my head all at once, with no unpleasant side effects. I feel radiant. I don't want this moment to end, but it has to. I drop his body to the floor and lick the wound closed, just the way she taught me. His pulse is faint but steady. He reeks of booze. If anyone finds him, there should be no suspicions. As I walk up the stairwell, I insert a finger in my mouth and try to sense my fangs. No dice. It seems like they really are retractable. Well, that's handy. The hunger pains are gone. I rub my hands around my body. I feel comfortable, hopeful, happy. Can't remember the last time I enjoyed life like this. Now, let's keep this party going. Wow, what a night. I watch Times Square from above. It's beautiful. Never thought this place could make me emotional, to be honest. But here I am, feeling deeply moved. Who would have thought? Getting up here was surprisingly easy, all things considered. Took more than physical effort. Took more thought than physical effort. Earlier tonight, I started experimenting. Experimenting? Who experiments? Earlier tonight, I started experimenting with this body's limits. I realized I can jump over small buildings and leap steep walls with ease now, and my whole perception of space has shifted. I planned a scenic route across the rooftops. I did my best to avoid attracting attention, just as I was told. Stayed in the shadows as much as humanly possible. I spot a drone from far away. I spot a drone from afar. For a second, I feel uneasy, but I remember what she told me. Machines wouldn't get a clear view of me anymore. Camera footage, photos, it's all glitched out or blurry. Wouldn't take it for granted if I didn't try to catch my reflection earlier on. I couldn't see my face clearly, not in the mirror, not even in a puddle. My face was like one of Dolly's clocks. She told me to keep a low profile regardless. Someone might take note and track you down. She didn't care to elaborate, but it didn't sound encouraging. Suddenly, it hits me that I might never be able to see my own face again. I won't ever be able to take care of my looks by myself. And what about the long-term psychological effects? A knot of anxiety tightens in my stomach. Jesus, this is probably just the tip of the iceberg. What else is going to change? Calm down. Wait a second. These past few nights have been the best of my life. For years I was on a downward spiral, failing health, no future, a feeling of overwhelming powerlessness. Now everything has been flipped upside down, a total paradigm shift. A bad ending is no longer the only option. I'm actually looking forward to tomorrow. I forgot how that feels. Where it used to stand at mere seconds to midnight, the doomsday clock has been effectively turned off. A cold breeze brushes my cheek. As stupid as it sounds, I choose to read it as the world telling me to chin up. I can bend anyone to my will. I am capable of superhuman strength. I am a master of shadows. I can do anything. Tomorrow night, I will be introduced to my duties. If everything goes according to plan, I will become a New York City representative of Clan La Sombra. Whoever they are, whatever that means, I have no idea what to expect. But tonight is tonight. I am free. All my worries from a month ago feel like they belonged to someone else. Finally, things are looking up. That actually seems like a good point to stop tonight. I know this has only been a little more than a half hour of story time, of story hour. Actually, no, you know what? We're going to keep going. March 2020. That's interesting. That is interesting because we all know what actually happens in the world March 2020. Anyways, March 2020. Back at it again at Big Beat Burger. Familiar sounds, familiar smells, familiar faces. Yet again, I'm recalling that night when everything finally seemed to change for the better. I mean, it's not like I wasn't expecting everything to go back to the old depressing normal. Even in the thick of it, the rational part of me recognized my state as temporary. But with these highs there's always a hope it won't end. Or maybe that an ego death will finally occur. Be satisfied, you stupid fucking bitch. I command you. Here's all the logical evidence for why you should be satisfied. Here's the obvious direction for your life. And here's a detailed explanation of how you should treat the people that care for you. No dice. I always fall back into the same old habits. It's like they were encoded deep in my DNA. The aimlessness, the powerlessness, the spiritual exhaustion, these goddamn fast food trips, the stupid fucking self-loathing now amplified whenever I drink somebody's blood. Maybe I should just blame it all on the misfortunes of my birth. You do this social climbing until you dissociate, and then you're just this untethered, constantly frustrated ball of dumb desires. Except, I'm sort of immortal right now, and I need to figure out what to do next. I watched this obscure Asian movie once, Eli Lemme Sabachthani, starring Tadanobu Asano, one of the coolest guys in the world. He plays this Merzbow-like figure, a legendary noise musician. There's this mysterious virus spreading around the world, causing despair and mass suicides. A rich CEO's granddaughter gets sick and longs to die, so he spends a fortune searching for the cure. Turns out Asano and his friend, played by the violent Asen Geisha guy, are traveling through Japan, searching the corpse-strewn towns and fields for any unique items that can produce beautiful sounds. As it turns out, the avant-garde walls of noise they create are able to heal the infected. The CEO begs the band to help, offering them all the money they want. But for some reason, they refuse. Through a series of flashbacks, concerts, and vignettes, a mystery unfolds. Eventually, we realize that Asano's music is not just a remedy. It's also a cause of the virus. Whenever it connects with people, they get this hunger for more extreme, more novel experiences. And eventually, they hit a wall. Nothing can satisfy them anymore. They lose their will to live. Not even the musicians are spared from this curse. They know the end will come, sooner or later. The girl is saved by a mind-blowing concert, but the tragedy is merely postponed, not averted. The last shot of a Jesus-like Asano silently considering his role as savior and destroyer stayed with me. The form of the film is abrasive, little to no narrative coherence, some weird cartoonish creative choices, the Japanese noise soundtrack, the very free-form and hard-to-understand weave of themes. But at this point, movies like this are all that truly connect with me. I'm the New York City representative of the La Sombra clan now, also known as the Night Clan. They are masters of shadows who cast distorted reflections and make modern tech go haywire in their presence. Last year, a few months before I was embraced, the La Sombra had joined with the Camarilla, the biggest and most traditional sect in the vampire world. The two groups actually used to fight each other, but our leaders found some intel that made them reconsider their strategy, so they sent a diplomatic mission to parley with their historical enemies. The deal they got in Chicago was simple: an unlife for an unlife. For every La Sombra vampire allowed in the Ivory Tower, one La Sombra vampire has to meet their ultimate end. I still remember the name of the woman who met her final death so I could begin my unlife. Her name was Hester Reed, a sworn enemy of the Camarilla, a guerrilla fighter who spent decades opposing them. She was someone with far better principles than mine from what I've gathered. Well, whoever she was, her execution by my sire served to convince the NYC elites to give us La Sombra a chance. Then they set out to look for a mutually agreed upon candidate who become the clan's rep in the city. My sire searched for someone who gave the impression she was more than she appeared. The local court was looking for someone they could walk all over. After long negotiations, they decided I was a good compromise. They proceeded to systematically destroy my entire life, just to make me show I was psychologically strong enough to join their ranks. The turncoat special, they called it. Somehow, I succeeded. And it eventually led me right back to where I started. I stopped writing and put my pen down.
Will that be all?
Yes, most of all, I hope you enjoy your stay in London.
Oh, I very much doubt I will. Just like every cultured person, I think the only good Englishman is a dead Englishman.
At least you're headed there to kill some of the Duskborn you hate so much.
One of the benefits of being a scourge, if there's one thing in this world is never in shortage of, it's loathsome runoffs who forfeited their right to live.
Will that be all?
Tell Kadir I said hello, and farewell.
Safe travels. Don't let the door hit you on the way out, Psycho. Ah, well. Okay, so to give some explanation for those of you who do not know about Vampire the Masquerade, the Camarilla is kind of the I'm going to say the leaders. They're not really the leaders because there's the Camarilla and there's the Anarchs, and the Anarchs are exactly what they sound like, and they give no shits, not even 2 shits, not even half a shit about the Camarilla's rules, other than keeping the masquerade. But other than that, the Anarchs do not bow down to the Camarilla. The Camarilla has a prince who runs usually a city, or like if it were in the middle of nowhere, they'd run like a county if there were vampires there. The prince also has a sheriff who's the vampire that enforces the rules and the laws. There is also a scourge. The scourge is beholden only. I want to say actually. Let me go to the dictionary just to. Scourge, a very unpleasant person whose sole task is to hunt down vampires who are born wrong. Locally, that mostly means thin bloods, subordinate directly to the prince. Okay, so that's not the Scourge's only job, though. The Scourge also is so where the sheriff will visibly and obviously maintain the prince's orders and rules. The Scourge is kind of the behind-the-scenes CIA black box kind of. I don't know why I'm thinking black box because black box is a kind of theater thing, but is a in the dark, in the shadows person that does the same thing as the sheriff, just not publicly. So it's not just thin bloods, because the thing is too is thin bloods could end up becoming part of the court and the Camarilla. So yeah, so being the child of the freaking black ops, thank you, Bread, is the black ops of enforcement for the prince. So being the child of the Scourge is really intimidating, especially because I just learned that's what my character is. So, yeah, let's continue on from there. This is definitely getting interesting. I'm the lone Lasombra in this town, and my representational role means jack shit. No title, no perks, no whatever. Right now, I'm the court's gopher, doing all sorts of work nobody else will touch. My main duties? Being a sort of immigration officer. See, New York City is probably the biggest vampire travel hub in the USA, and definitely the biggest one in the East Coast. Almost every kindred arriving from Africa and Europe comes through here. The local Camarilla is nuts about bureaucracy and population control, so every vampire leaving or arriving this town is supposed to check with me to inform me about their travels. Well, in theory at least. The VIPs play by the different rules. I don't like how that sentence is written. The VIPs play by different rules. They take care of this stuff through connections and servants. But for the smaller fish, I'm like a vampire Statue of Liberty. The first bloodsucker every kindred coming to New York City should see. On paper, anyway. The first after the prince, or Kadir, the Primogen Council. No. The first after the prince, or Kadir, the Primogen Council. These things vary. Yeah, I'm a naturally traitorous La Sombra, so they still prefer being traditional and hands-on about these things. As I said, at the end of the day, I'm just a gopher. And this work only serves to remind me I'm not quite in, just standing at the gate. They haven't even given me an office. I just meet everyone in public places, such as coffee shops or this fast food restaurant. Some consider this an insult and lash out at me, but luckily, most of them understand we're in the same boat. Only here because we're curs who need to be reminded of our place from time to time. Speaking of, my last client is 15 minutes late, and I still have more errands to run tonight. This is getting irritating. To be honest, I should just find some self-respect and leave. But I won't. My sorry upbringing left me with the stupid sense of responsibility. 10 more minutes pass. Eventually, an unfamiliar woman appears by the door. She tells someone to stand by the door and walks in. Long chestnut hair, body stuck in her late teens by the look of it, a fashionable scarf covering most of her face, elegant clothes, dignified walk. I signal her to sit in front of me, trying my best not to let my impatience show. She obliges. You're here to check in? I am Julia Sawinski. I am Julia Sawinski, I presume? She's scanning her surroundings, like we're at a circus. I hope you won't mind if I make it quick. I'm needed in Elysium. Name? Catherine Weiss. Huh. I swear I've heard that name before. Someone else's description of her crosses my mind. That weird lady who owns the art hole but is never there? Weird? So it is her. Catherine Weiss, owner of the art hole, de facto headquarters of the New York City Camarilla. For fuck's sake, Julia. What are you doing calling her weird right off the bat? God knows you've already made a fool of yourself in front of enough VIPs in the city. Recover. I'm sorry, it's just that I still don't know many people there, so I have to go by the descriptions I'm given by members of the Primogen. Well, the description is mostly correct, outside of that one word that slightly perplexes me. Pot calling kettle black sounds like. Oh, from what I gathered, it's just that your interests are rumored to be, not fully aligned with the Camarillas, and it irks some folks up there. Being a keeper of the Elysium is not enough for some, I see. I suspected as much. But what can you do? She seems chill. Good. Anyway, Catherine Weiss. Wow. Yes, wants me to spell it? People often have trouble getting it right. Forgive my indiscretion. It's just that people of your stature usually don't bother checking in with me. They usually report their arrival to one of the Primogen and they make all the arrangements. I hear Prince Panhard is busy with the preparations for her big party. I presume that if I spared her some paperwork, she'd appreciate it as a gesture of goodwill. Besides, I wanted to meet the infamous Lasombra representative out of sheer curiosity. My interest piqued once I heard about her. She looks around knowingly. Unique circumstances. Yes, Prince Panhard had trouble justifying the exorbitant rent my property would need. That's literally pennies for her. As far as I know, she's been sitting on an empty property since last year. Looks like they've got it out for you. Bad. That's what I assumed. But it's nice to get a confirmation. Well, it's not like my clan has ever been particularly popular in these parts. At least that's what I've heard. Sins of the father and so on. Yes, just to make sure you've never met Hester, but you know of her? I do know I wouldn't be here if not for her. Have you two met? No, I only heard of her once or twice. We had similar outlooks on many issues, although we tended to come up with completely different solutions. In any case, I think it's meaningful that Hester died so that you could live. They feared her. They fear you. Now they fear you. And that's why they're keeping you down. If anyone who's not a VIP said this to me, I'd laugh in their face. Oh, I get what she's doing. She's trying to buy my favors. Best not to act like I'm easy to please. Stick to business. Time will tell. In the meantime, I'll need you to help me out with my documentation. Of course. So where are you coming from? Washington, D.C. She says it the way people in Hollywood movies say it. The way that suggests her Washington is wildly different from the Washington you and I would see. What were you doing there? Take a guess. Government work? Write that down. It ought to amuse Helene a little bit. If you say so. Date and hour of arrival? She takes out a plane ticket and slides it towards me. It's all here. 1 a.m. Got it. Method of transit, plane. Purpose of visit? Meeting with Prince ought to work just fine. I guess. Estimated duration of visit? Undefined. Write in 6 months if you really need to. Place of accommodation? Conditions of intended stay? The atoll. Conditions should be adequate. You tell me. I tend to be happy with Airbnb. Home sweet home? I'm not certain I'd ever felt particularly at home here. That makes 2 of us. Curious. You have nothing holding you here? The face of a blonde-haired friend appears in my mind's eye, then vanishes. There's nothing holding me anywhere. I see. A prolonged silence. She stares into my eyes, and I return the stare. She's studying me. It's unnerving, but I do my best not to turn away. Eventually, she smiles. Didn't you say you were short on time? Oh God, yes! Kadir will kill me! I quickly begin to collect my stuff from underneath the table. You can simply inform him I paid you a visit. He'll understand, and he'll pass it on to everyone who should be in the know. Sure thing. Good. We'll see each other soon, I hope, at the party tomorrow night. I, wasn't invited. She gives me a pitying look. I understand. Well, if not given the opportunity, we should make our own. I'll be in touch. Good night, Ms. Weiss. I wish you a pleasant stay. Good night, and don't rush these things. You've got your whole on life ahead of you, and you're in a position where you can take it easy. Take your time. Get a different perspective. I nod and walk slowly out the door. When I lose sight of the restaurant, I sprint toward the subway. Slow night. I wish you are late, by the way. I hope you have a good excuse. Kadir al-Assami. The mighty sheriff of New York City is not happy with me. No wonder I met him in front of Elysium 30 minutes later than the time we had agreed on. Yeah, well, Catherine fucking Weiss decided to arrive fashionably late.
A likely story. She's supposed to be out of the city.
If you think I'm pulling your leg, boss, feel free to check my report. I pass him all the official papers the way I do every other night. Kadir stares me down for a good few seconds. Then his steely gaze softens.
You're serious? Weiss in McDonald's with the masks and elegant clothes surrounded by the smells of French fries and hamburger patties? That must have been one hell of a sight.
Technically it was BBB, not McDonald's, but yeah, I got made such a fool of myself. First thing I did, I quoted somebody calling her a weirdo. I wanted to die on the spot.
Serves you right, you fucking faux pas. I've been trying to teach you to control your tongue, but you never learn. It's a new gaffe every week with you. Still, there's good news and there's bad news. The good news is, Catherine has a fondness for vampires of humble beginnings. Probably why she decided to see you in your, shall we say, natural habitat.
She's one of the rich art scene assholes who seek out working class cred?
I did say something about watching her tongue. The bad news is she's very astute, so she can recognize a moron like you straight away. You never stood a chance at impressing her.
Oh, shut up. You still need me for anything here? I'll get on it straight away.
I wouldn't be standing out here chatting with you if I hadn't taken care of my duties. 30 minutes is all it took to finish preparations for the big party. I'm about to see everyone off.
Sorry?
Couldn't be helped, I suppose. It's more your loss than mine. I just wanted some company tonight, and you could really use the chance to appear here on official duties, so everyone can get to know your face. Heaven knows your fast food job isn't going to get you anywhere. You need to, what do they call it, hustle?
You don't need to tell me that, but it's not like being paraded around for a bunch of blue blood douchebags as he somehow manages to give a painful nudge in the back without so much as a hint of visible movement.
Language, you fool. They're coming out. Just stand here in silence for 5 minutes and focus on not embarrassing yourself any further, will you?
I got it. The first two silhouettes appear in the doorway of the art hall. An old man in a wheelchair pushed forward by his young servant. Haven't seen either of them before.
Mr. Payne, the night is still young. Hope you find the rest of it pleasant.
Payne, the wheelchair. I've heard about him. Addison Payne, one of the American Camarilla's main connections to the government and Wall Street. Disabled in quite a few ways. Needs a servant to communicate. I'd be full of resentment if I was embraced in this condition, but apparently, Payne is nothing but grateful for his immortality. He keeps writing fervent defenses of traditions and Camarilla customs. He wordlessly shakes Kadir's hand, but doesn't even deign to acknowledge me. At least his servant gives me a small bow. I return it. They leave. Kadir turns to the next person leaving.
Hi, Regent. Can't wait to see you in your outfit.
Spare me, chef. These fancy dress parties cause me enough suffering without your help. I can only hope you haven't conspired with Helene to embarrass me with this gift. She points to a shrink-wrapped set of clothes she's carrying inside her coat. Kadir smirks briefly.
I didn't have to. As you well know, Prince Panhard displays a considerable foresight in the matter of party planning.
Yes, if there's one thing she's deathly serious about, it's frivolities.
A recognizably mortal quality, especially for a prince. You ought to celebrate it, not oppose it.
Don't worry, Chef. I'm a big girl who knows her etiquette. I will play your game, amuse the crowd for a little bit, and return to my study as fast as possible. Aisling Sturbridge, High Regent of the Chantry of the Five Boroughs, a hero of the Battle of New York, the biggest warlock in town. Could be a prince herself if she didn't have her eye on a bigger prize. The thing is, Nobody knows what that prize is. They only know that it has something to do with the goal of thaumaturgical research. Whoever tried to find out what it is failed violently. Oh, I'm sure you're going to have fun. Miss Swaninsky here is just informing Catherine Weiss is back in town. It is safe to assume she will join our festivities. You're kidding me! Her negative reaction intrigues me, so I decide to give her another nudge. She told me to send her regards and that she absolutely can't wait to catch up. Cheeky. That hint of torment on her face is less than I was counting on, but it will do. Weiss, excellent. I'd love to catch up with her. The barely concealed venom in her voice clearly suggests that in fact she'd hate to catch up with her. Yes, it looks like tomorrow night will be very special, but for now, I bid you adieu. And she's gone. Is there some kind of story between Aisling and Weiss that I should be aware of?
That part about sending regards? That was a bold-faced lie, wasn't it?
An innocent one. Overselling someone's courtesies is just good etiquette.
You're unbelievable. Well, I doubt High Regent Sturbridge took it as a courtesy, considering she once attempted to call for a blood hunt on Weiss.
Wow, why?
I've heard 5 different versions of the story, and all of them seem plausible. Catherine's relationship with this city is odd, to say the least. But hush for now.
He's obviously trying to kill the conversation, and the appearance of Thomas Arturo gives him a perfect way out.
Mr. Arturo?
Aw, Alasami, keep up the good work, eh?
Of course. Thomas Arturo, an architect by trade. He's a herald, a member of Prince Panhard's inner circle, an eccentric whose thoughts seem to be 10 times faster than his words. Take care on your way to the Haven, Mr. Arturo.
Ah, yes, yes.
He disappears into the night. Well, that was brief. Maybe I should stand in their way? That might force them to properly acknowledge my existence.
You severely underestimate their dedication to ignoring whelps like you. And just in case you're serious, I beg of you, don't.
I've been meaning to ask you this for a while now, but never had the opportunity. You really hate Arturo's guts, don't you? He carefully measures his diplomatic response.
I have no strong feelings about Thomas Arturo whatsoever.
Yes, well, considering you're always listing positives about every local Camarilla representative under the moon, you might as well have called him a cunt.
Language, whelp. And as for Arturo, I will share my opinion about him as soon as I come up with one that sticks for more than a week.
A group of kindred emerges from the art hole, rushing towards the street. Only a noble-looking woman stops next to us. She's wearing a hijab, but curiously enough, doesn't hide her hair underneath it.
Primogen?
If you were rude enough to stare, you'd quickly notice the cloth serves mostly to cover up her horrifying scars. Kadir, oh, and young Julia. I'm doing my best not to stare, because Samir is one of the few NYC Camarilla figures who hasn't been an asshole to me.
Still here? Did the prince require the clan of the Hunt's counsel in some matter?
Yes, I advised her that no matter how hard she tries, she shouldn't expect me to wear a different costume tomorrow night. She's the Banu Hakim Primogen. Just like the Sombra, their clan was independent from the Camarilla until relatively recently. However, they negotiated a better deal than we did. They have a Primogen, for one. Hailing from the Middle East, the Banu Hakim are drawn to the practice of justice. The rules must be upheld, and every transgression punished. They don't have much say in NYC, but the prince often seeks their judgment. It's just good PR.
I trust she was understanding. Those are beautiful clothes.
Thank you so much. I'm eager to see the outfit you came up with. And how are you, Julia? Have you seen any light at the end of Have you seen any lights at the end of the tunnel? Same old, Samira. Still wandering in the dark, bumping my shin every 2 steps. Sorry to hear that. I trust you're pestering the prince and your superiors to improve your standing. It's a process. Oh, Julia, you won't achieve anything if you don't keep reaching for it. Kadir, weren't you supposed to teach her the ropes?
I'm trying to, Primogen, but with this child it's always a process.
I can only wish you good luck then. Good night, Julia. Good night, Kadir. Good night.
Have a safe trip.
The art hole has to be almost empty by now. You like her, don't you?
Stop with your class clown act, whelp. It only serves to reveal deep insecurities.
Wow, that's harsh.
It's factual. Were I as harsh as you claim?
She did tell us both to call her Samira, but you're still keeping your distance with that Primogen shit.
Watch your profanity and don't project your fantasies onto me. I won't give you a lesson about professional boundaries, but I suspect the way you will eventually learn will be extremely unpleasant.
Am I interrupting something, good folks? Even though I'm constantly pestering him, Kadir's composure is unshaken. His response comes swift and unfazed.
Not at all, Mr. Van der Weyden. Heading back to your office?
You know me, my dear sheriff. Where else would I go? Now that's curious. Even though Carter van der Weyden is a Primogen as well, Malkavian to be precise, I don't hear Kadir address him as such.
Hope to see you tomorrow night.
Oh, I will absolutely show up, provided I can. But just in case, I already apologize for not making it to the prince, simply drowning in work these days. The rhythms, tempo, and intonation patterns of his voice are so familiar. Half of it sounds like JFK, the other half exactly like Barack Obama. Just like his appearance, it all feels so fake. He's old money, of course. Comes from a long line of Dutch merchants who originally settled in the New York City. Region. Runs a wildly successful law office. Rubs elbows with elites of both kindred and kind varieties alike. He seems perfect in every way, and that's why he's so unnerving. He's a child of Malkov. Must be blighted with some affliction, but whatever it is, he doesn't let it show. Hard not to wonder what he's hiding.
The celebrations are planned to last all week. Surely you will find the time.
I pray I will, my good man. I pray I will. In case you need to reach me, you know where to find me. Have a good one. He doesn't even register my presence before leaving. Sometimes I think they're all still hoping I will simply go away. As Carter drives away in his limousine, Kadir shakes his head.
You wanted to hear about which member of the New York City's Camarilla I dislike the most?
Yes. He shoots me a knowing glance and smirks.
Too bad. They're all my dear colleagues, and I deeply respect every single one of them.
Sure you do. Wouldn't want to blurt out something like something. Sure you do. Wouldn't want to blurt out something that could lock you out of Mr. van der Weyden's legal services, would you, you ass kisser?
I do expect to find myself in need of a good defense attorney when my broke, incompetent, and foul-mouthed assistant finally pushes me over the edge.
Rude. Did you still need me here? I still need to swing by St. Patrick's tonight.
Don't worry, we're almost done. The prince is coming out.
Captain is the last person to leave the ship, huh? And there she is. Helene Panhard, the big kahuna, as someone I once knew would call her. The de facto ruler of New York City, and a self-professed patron of the arts. Kadir, penny for your thoughts.
You should be pleased to hear the High Regent is resigned to her fate, my prince. Mr. van der Weyden is decidedly not. I suspect he will be too busy to join the festivities all the week through.
Excellent. She turns to me. Miss Swazinski, weren't you supposed to accompany our good sheriff in his duties tonight? There was an unexpected change of plans. Catherine Weiss is back in town. Catherine is here? Now that's a welcome surprise, but why does it have to do with you, Miss Swaninski? She said she didn't want to trouble you with all the paperwork regarding her arrival, Prince Panhard. It's all been taken care of. Kadir has already been informed of everything. That's certainly a nice gesture, but wait a minute now. Where exactly did you meet her?
In a fast food restaurant, my prince.
I see. Helene rubs her eyes. Catherine, in a love for proletariat amusement, I suppose it would be a source of amusing anecdotes this week.
If you want to avoid these situations in the future, it might be a good time to discuss offering Miss Swaninski an office of her own.
We'll get to it eventually. There are more pressing matters at hand. The festivities start tomorrow, and there's still so much to be done. Will you make sure the art hole is secure before leaving?
Certainly, my prince. Have a good night.
Good night, Kadir. Good night, Miss Swazinski. We'll talk about your work soon. Don't worry. Of course. Good night, Prince Panhard. A chauffeur escorts her to a limo. There's an awkward silence between me and Kadir until the car disappears around the corner. More pressing matters, huh? A penny for your thoughts, Sheriff?
I'm certain an image of a keeper of the Elysium stuck in a fast food restaurant will linger in Prince Panhard's mind. You're far closer to your goal than you were a few minutes ago.
I'm pretty sure I've heard you say something to that effect a few times now.
And I stand by my words. Rome wasn't built in a day, Julia.
As a Camarilla loyalist, don't you think it sucks that the Ivory Tower is so hell-bent on showing disrespect to my clan? They're actually willing to make fools of themselves in the process?
We've all had to endure our own hazing rituals, but yes, the current situation is not ideal.
Whatever. You need a hand closing up the Elysium?
I'll manage it. It's getting late. Better run. Some shadow in Chicago is probably impatient to get a copy of the reports you've given me. You've pleased one master. Now it's time to please the other.
Yeah, here's the thing about working for two masters. None of them really thinks of you as their own. Not knowing how to reply, Kadir shrugs. I wave to him goodbye and head for the subway. When I reach St. Patrick's Cathedral, I'm greeted by a voice that grates on me like teeth on tinfoil.
Well, well, well. The prodigal daughter returns.
Oh my God, no. This is the one thing I didn't want to happen.
Julia, please, thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain.
Uh-huh. Where's Father Leonard?
His clergy duties keep him from getting here on time. He sent me to apologize in his name and keep you company for a few minutes.
That's the second thing he ought to apologize for.
He just wants his flock to live in unity. I am more than willing to oblige him. Why wouldn't you?
For the last time, I'm not a part of his flock. We've a purely professional arrangement.
I know you see it that way. The Knight Clan's tendency to stick close to the Catholic Church is their greatest virtue, but they consider this relationship purely instrumental. This is why we need kindred like you to bring the spiritual change to your clan, to make them understand God's precious gifts. The closer they'd get to the light, the greater their shadow would become.
Again, with his insufferable sermonizing. Benoit Segal here is a local nutjob and an ex-artist, a degenerate who has some sort of complete mental breakdown in the 90s. To recover, he took to religion for solace and guidance. At first, he proclaimed his readiness to devote the rest of his unlife to studying Nautism. After a few years, though, he changed his mind and joined the Catholic Church instead. As luck would have it, his neophyte zeal found a major target in me. When I first met him, I was stupid enough to tell him I was raised Catholic and still identify as such. Somewhat. immediately pictured me as some sort of a force for change within the Camarilla and set out to put me back on the righteous path. Now he won't stop preaching to me, apparently, until I become a nun. Remember, the darkest place is directly beneath the candle. You turncoats have this unfortunate predisposition to find a salvation right within your grasp and then lose your way in the shadows. Christ, once he starts, he just won't stop. I guess it's time to bring out the big guns. By the way, I was meaning to ask, got any news about Sophie Langley? For those of you who don't remember, Sophie Langley was the sire in the previous Coteries of New York. That's why they dropped her name here. I will let you either watch the streams that I did that are on the YouTube channel to see what happens, or you're more than welcome to play Coteries of New York yourself and find out. I'm not going to give it away. A painful grimace crosses his face, but doesn't linger. Kind of rude to change the subject, you know. Rude? I'm just looking for a topic both sides of this conversation would care about. You know, like any guide on etiquette says you should. Salvation is a topic close to anyone's heart, whether they admit it or not. It's pretty bold of you to assume I still care about Langley. I do not assume. I'm certain you do. The second she retires from the public eye, you stop acting like Jesus era Kanye and start acting like Jesus is King era Kanye. Coincidence? I've never had a Jesus era. Do people really call it that? Here's how it's going to work. Tell me what you know, I'll tell you what they say. And keep in mind, I didn't know she was your sire until a few nights ago. Hell, I haven't even met her. He winces a bit at me saying hell, but lets it go. Sure, I figure you would have prodded that wound long ago if you knew, but what do you care anyway? Better to let you drone on about your tormented past than let you carry on with your good missionary stick. Professional curiosity. Once a journalist, always a journalist. He scratches his head, then exhales in a sad mockery of a chuckle. Fine, then, I'll do my best to make it short. Just like you said, Sophie Langley, every New Yorker kindred's beloved socialite, was my sire. But we first met some time after World War II. I left France right before the Nazis went around the Maginot Line. I struggled to keep my siblings alive with my art. Watched my brother die to the flu epidemic of '43. I was close to losing my mind. That's when she showed up. She said the sheer torment in my work caught her eye. She became my patron, allowed my talents to flourish, and supported me financially. Eventually, she embraced me. As a well-off kindred, my artistic interests started to naturally deviate from what they used to be back when I was a poor mortal upstart. I began to see the world the way her social circle does. And that she couldn't forgive. Instead of being a fun novelty, I became just another part of the malaise surrounding her. She grew distant and then stopped seeing me altogether. I've had my share of meltdowns because of this. I won't deny that. I locked myself out of many career opportunities, but it was an important lesson. Don't trust your elders. Vampirism affects them psychologically as well. If they take interest in you, they won't stop until they suck your soul dry and then discard you like a broken toy. For the first time since I've known him, Seagal registers to me as something other than a Bible-thumping nuisance. Is it compassion I feel? Do I find him relatable? How dreadful. It's possible he's strategically trying to elicit sympathy. Maybe he heard about my dramatic exit from Lodestar. Or maybe he's just alluding to the way my sire left me here to fend for myself. It's only God who will never let you astray. This is why I find your wreck so frustrating, Julia. You're so close to getting it, but you choose sin instead. There's the Benoit Seagal I know. Almost had me fooled. Let's get back on track. What about Langley's disappearance from the city? Her path was a road to perdition. Wherever she ended up,
I doubt she's too happy about it. She has plans for the future of the city, wanted to make it her ultimate artwork. She's always the vain one. And of course, you are completely sure you have nothing to do with her disappearance? Please don't tell me you're getting at what I think you're getting at. Everybody says you've been acting like you're trying to repent for something ever since her vanishing act. And you've got motive. Of course, I'm getting at what you think I'm getting at. Benoit shakes his head. You really have the devil in your heart, Julia, always testing me. Just asking what everyone's thinking. Are they now? Listen, I'm familiar with a lot of the insults attached to my name in the city. Those aren't exactly compatible with the image of a ruthless killer. Killer, huh? Now that's interesting. I haven't said anything about killing. He scrubs his head. He scrubs his hands over his forehead and collects himself before responding. Stop picking apart every word I say in this completely unpleasant way. There's a statement if you really want one, Miss Hercule Poirot. I do believe Sophie, the way I knew her, has met her end. Even if she was still walking this earth, she wouldn't come back here the same prideful aristocrat. She'd have to undergo a spiritual rebirth. Someone has reminded her of her place. Her former friends talked of her in hushed tones. Even that servant Plato of her went missing. No more Camarilla parties. She's done for. Whatever happened to her, I don't know. I swear on Jesus and his sandals I had nothing to do with it. But yes, I'm still here, and she's not. And it's not a reason to gloat, but to be more humble. I received a sign from God telling me to re-examine all the unfortunate ways I still resemble Sophie Langley. And I listened. I rejected the pride I shared with her. I renewed my vows to God, recommitted to preaching his greatness. I mean, this is why we're having this conversation in the first place. Right now, when I think of Langley's influence on my life, I am grateful, because she was a sign that got me here. And if God wills it, maybe one day you'll look at her the same way, Julia. Mental note. Whenever he circles back to his preachy tone, it's time to intervene. All right. If it makes you feel any better, I think that the only way a wimp like you could have hurt her was by boring her to death with Bible quotes. Now then, quid pro quo, tit for tat. You were saying people still talk about me. I was curious if... Oh, look who's finally here. Stalling for time worked. Father Leonard rushes in our direction, carrying a folder of documents under his arms. I assume it's the one I came here for. And on that cliffhanger, we're going to end this stream. Thank you, those of you who came along for the ride. We will be... Or, no, let me back up. The YouTube video of this will be live. I'll probably put it up on Monday. I'll do my best to get it there beforehand, but no promises. I also, if you would like to join me on Sundays at 1:05 p.m., I'm currently playing the Untitled Goose Game and working on getting Dragon Age to actually function on my computer. And you are also more than welcome to join me on OnlyFans. Those are the platforms that I am there on. We'll be back next week to follow along further with what happens with our story here for the Shadows of New York. Let's go raid my friend Ruby, though. Ruby is a speed streamer. Yes, Brett. I also play Fork Knife. I usually do Fork Knife in other people's streams, and go with them. Though every once in a while I'll broadcast it myself. So yeah. But we're gonna go raid Ruby Hart. Ruby is a friend of mine that I know in real life. They're a speed gamer who I believe is working on Shadow of the Colossus and trying to qualify for the summer Games Done Quick tournament, I believe. But yeah, let's go join them.
go through. Whoa, what the fuck? Okay. Yeah, it won't even let you go through.
Yeah.
Jesus. Did something intentionally break it and bar her access? I mean, she was barred access from the beginning. Okay. Captured 18 hours ago.
18 hours, less than a day.
Whoa. Jesus.
He's being cryo.
Okay, hang on.